Hi everyone, welcome back. Thank you so much for coming in here as always. Hope you guys are enjoying your Friday night. It has not been a great week for us at all, I guess you could say. The only good thing that's going on right now is Bitcoin is not crashing as much as at least I thought it was going to crash. I don't know about you guys, but I'm actually happy to see where Bitcoin is right now and actually going up a little bit in the last 2 days. Even now into the third day, it's going up in the green a little bit. So we're going to take a look at why is Bitcoin becoming more of a fleet of safety a little bit. I have some good information for you guys for that. We'll take a look at a couple articles, not articles, but posts from X on that. We'll also take a look at Cleanspark Iren provided their updates today. We'll look at, I think it's Cypher provided an update as well, and Hut 8. We'll do those on Sunday night's stream. We'll look at those, and then we'll also take a look at the MNAV for the miners that have a HODL position right now. So we'll look at that towards the end of the video, and I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I think that is it. So let's get into it here. It's kind of wild. The VIX is out of control right now, but we got to go through this. Always the formalities in here. Not financial advice as always. For entertainment only. Please do your own research. Full disclosure below that. Hit the like button, subscribe. Helps me out tremendously. And we can honestly say we survived a pretty rough week here on not only the markets and everything else. If you survived to this point, pat yourself on the back. Have an adult beverage here at night. Relax a little bit. We're not out of the woods yet, but I think things will get better for us in the long run. This is the time to be buying if you can, right? The best times to buy is when the markets are in turmoil, when we are in these kind of positions right now where markets are coming down like crazy. If you can buy into these parts of the market and the spans in time right now, you will do so much better going forward once everything clears up, I believe, at least historically, right? Nothing is set in stone going forward, but I think going forward, you'll do a lot better instead of being on the sidelines. If you can get into it right now, I think that is the way to go. So looking at the VIX here, I mean, the VIX went today crazy. We are at right now 45.31 on the VIX, right? That's volatility in the markets. It is very, very volatile. The S&P was down, Dow Jones was down, the NASDAQ was down, the Russell 2000 was down, all about 5% or more on the day. It was not a great day for stocks at all. You can see here the Dow Jones right now from the top that it reached is down 15%. We are basically getting into bear market territory here. The NASDAQ was down as well, 22% right now. I mean, you can see these gaps that we are seeing here. We're back to where we were on the NASDAQ in May of last year. That's insane, right? So all of those gains that we had in the year, wiped out, gone. You can thank Mr. President Trump there for that with the tariffs that happened on Wednesday. So it is definitely a revaluation on everything. I mean, the market shed like, what was it, over $1 trillion in capital there. The S&P was also down quite a bit. It's back down to also back in May of last year. So that one's down 17.5%. We are in bear market territory currently. Unfortunately, a lot of pain, right? If you have 401ks, you're feeling it. If you're getting close to retirement, you're definitely feeling it right now. And then just in general, if you're investing in these things, you are in pain. But with pain comes later on pretty good profits potentially. So just keep that in mind, right? The day's not over yet. There's many more days of trading to happen here in the year, and things could definitely turn out much better for us later on. So just keep that in mind. Continue to invest as you best can, and that will definitely save you in the long run, plus give you a much better returns going forward here. If you can buy at these low prices right now. A lot of stuff is just way undervalued as it is already. But Bitcoin is the main topic here. Bitcoin was up a little bit here today. It is, let me see here if I can pull this up so you guys can see this a little better. But Bitcoin was up just a little bit, 0.82%, second day in a row, right? Everything else is crashing. Markets are crashing for the last 2 days. Bitcoin is actually going up. So we are seeing a little bit of I don't know if this is how long this is gonna last, but at least right now, we're seeing some flee to safety in Bitcoin here. Why Bitcoin doesn't have tariffs, doesn't have anything else. There's a lot of things, a lot of people are commenting about it as well. And why don't we get into that right now before we get back into the miners and everything else, so that way everything is up to par here. So a couple of things here. Bitcoin gains ground as store of value amid market turmoil, right? So on April 4th, the U.S. stock market experienced a significant decline with over 1.5 trillion in value erased from the market. Amidst this downturn, the U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent commented that Bitcoin is becoming a store of value. The statement coincides with the observations that Bitcoin price has remained relatively stable despite the broader market turmoil. suggesting a potential decoupling from traditional risk assets, right? That's kind of what we're seeing here, kind of interesting. And then we'll take a look at here in a second how that compares to like the S&P 500 and NASDAQ, how Bitcoin has done in the last year compared to those two. So is Bitcoin actually decoupling? Kind of looks like it here. But this was obviously just in. Treasury Secretary Bassett said Bitcoin is becoming a store of value, which I also believe in. Michael Saylor had commented on this as well. Today's market reaction to tariffs is a reminder inflation is just the tip of the iceberg. Capital faces dilution from taxes, regulation, competition, obsolescence, and unforeseen events. Bitcoin offers resilience in a world full of hidden risks. Right? I agree with that as well. It's 21 million Bitcoin that's ever going to be there. You know what you're getting. You know you're going to continue to have less and less Bitcoin being put out into the system every 4 years. And that's a good thing here. And then you can see here, right? This is actually wild to see. For the first time, Bitcoin is decoupling right before our eyes. This is from Corey Bates. Dow Jones down 3.9. This was earlier in the day, about in the beginning of the day. Well, probably in the middle of the day. NASDAQ was down 4. S&P. Bitcoin is actually up at a certain point, up 2.14% on the day. So you're definitely seeing that kind of happen here. And then again, I mean, look at this. This is the chart here of everything that's pretty much down. You had a couple of things that were in the green, but everything else for the most part was in the red, right? Not a great sign there. And then also have a post here from Matthew Siegel, Recovering CFA. If you guys aren't following, definitely give him a follow. This guy puts out a lot of great information here during the day, so give him a follow for sure. But here's some thoughts for clients on tariffs impact on Bitcoin. How do the latest tariff announcements impact Bitcoin and digital assets? The Trump administration's April 2nd tariff package targeting imports from China and the EU has reignited global trade tension and heightened the risk of monetary and geopolitical fragmentation. Bitcoin initially dipped to 81,000 range amid broader risk-off sentiment, but has since stabilized and outperformed equities, reflecting its resilience and growing structural demand. Right, that's awesome. While slower growth alone isn't bullish for Bitcoin, the potential policy response is if tariffs drag on GDP without sparking a new inflation wave, the Fed may have scope to cut rates, right, which would be good, reintroducing the liquidity conditions under which Bitcoin has historically excelled. Right, every time we had rates going down, risk on assets go on, Bitcoin, what does it do? It flies. At the same time, we weaponize the weaponization of trade and financial infrastructure continues to drive interest in neutral settlement rails, aka Bitcoin. The interest is no longer theoretical. China and Russia were recently revealed to be settling some energy transactions using Bitcoin and other digital assets. Just as we anticipated, Bolivia also announced plans to march to import energy using crypto. And in Europe, French utility EDF will explore using surplus electricity currently exported to Germany to mine Bitcoin. All right, so that's continuing on there. These developments highlight how digital assets are evolving from speculative instruments into tools for energy, trade, and monetary realignment. In the context, the latest tariffs aren't just an economic story. They may be an accelerant for Bitcoin's role in the emerging multipolar order. Interesting, right? What key indicators should investors watch? Investors should watch the evolving path of Fed policy, right? Dovish shifts in the rate expectations and rising liquidity are historically positive for Bitcoin. Today, Fed Powell did have a conference that he held a conference, took a bunch of questions. He sounded a little bit hawkish there, but not too bad. He's obviously wanting to see what happens with the tariffs and what impact those are going to have. And then the U.S. dollar index is another key gauge. Any signs of dollar weakness may support the Bitcoin as a hedge narrative, which we're kind of seeing that as play out right now as it is. Bitcoin ETF flows on chain activity also matters. Despite volatility, U.S. listed spot Bitcoin ETFs are still net positive by 600 million year to date. Okay, so that's good to know. Didn't know that. With renewed inflows seen in late March. And finally, any retaliatory steps from China and EU, especially ones that bypass dollar-based systems, could accelerate the strategic case for crypto. And I agree, right? So there's a lot of things happening here in the background that we need to pay attention to as well. And these are just some of those things that are happening there. Okay, so you got to take everything into consideration here. Bitcoin, I mean, you saw the markets going down quite tremendously in the last 2 days. Bitcoin kind of up in the green a little bit. Not much, but at least it's in the green. So if we do have the Fed coming in later on in possibly May, cutting rates, oh my gosh, look out at that point. I think we're going much obviously higher in Bitcoin, I believe, at that point. But it also depends on what's happening in the overall macro, microeconomics and things like that. Okay. So that goes back to here. So if we look at the Dow Jones here, we're going to overlay Bitcoin on this chart here really quick. Same as scale. And we're going to go out a year basically. On the year time frame, you can see the the Dow Jones is down approximately, I would say maybe 13% from where it actually started out at. Bitcoin, on the other hand, is still up 22%. Not bad, but it's actually pretty good considering all the things that have happened here. If we look at it on the NASDAQ Composite, Bitcoin's up approximately 22%, and the NASDAQ is down, I would say maybe not total 22%, maybe 20%, 19%, something like that from where it was back here. So again, same story here. S&P 500, same thing. S&P 500 is down 17.5%. Bitcoin's up 28%. So we are, looks like at least right now, for the time being, we are decoupling from the markets, which might be a really, really good thing. We won't know until we're past it and much further higher in this not scale, but in the cycle going forward. But a lot of things obviously depend on that. I mean, you can see on a lot of these guys, a lot of the markets at least, we're reaching like the RSIs getting to the bottom on this stuff here. I mean, you can see the S&P 500 is way below that. I mean, the RSI is at 21 roughly. We can see it also on the NASDAQ. It's way low here on the RSI. I mean, this is definitely very, very brutal for everybody. And you get the same thing on the Dow Jones. What about the Russell 2000? Same thing. We're pretty low. Could we go lower? Sure, we can possibly go lower as it is. I mean, the Russell actually went down even lower here, then bounced back up a little bit here. It was not a great day. Not a great week for all this stuff here. But we'll have to see what happens on Monday. Monday's going to be a new day. People are going to, reevaluate everything over the weekend. We'll see where things turn out at that point. But right now, like I said, Bitcoin is looking actually really, really good where it's standing as it is. Miners let me see here. Miners, for the most part, were down, and there were only two that were up in the green. CORZ was up a little bit, along with Mara. Everybody else was down quite a bit. Bitfarms was down 6.4. Excuse me. BitDeer was down 8.4%. Cypher was down 9%. That's got a new low for the 52 weeks on it. Cleanspark was down just a little bit, 1.21%, but it also went down to a new low of 6.5 on that. So that's a new 52-week low for it. It did bounce off of that and actually came out pretty good here towards the end of the day. CORZ, like I said, was up just a little bit here. Hive was down 5.41. Hut 8, 4.31, also reaching not quite yet a new 52-week low. Iren was down 1.6. Mara was up a little bit here, 0.62%, so that was good. Riot was up down 2.19%. It got close to the previous low that it had here. And I don't know if it's the new low on it or not. No, it's still not the new low on it, but it got down to 636 on it before bouncing. Wolf was down 1.89%, still higher than its previous 52-week low on that one. MicroStrategy was up today, so some of the hodlers of Bitcoin were actually doing pretty good. It was up 4% today. We had, what is this one here? Exodus Movement was up 4.69. This one is the blockchain group was up 4.12. This is the Phoenix Digital Assets was up 1.21, and GameStop for some reason was up 11%. Was it based on the simple fact that they're going to be buying Bitcoin here coming up, maybe? Or have they been buying Bitcoin here today? We don't know. We didn't get any kind of reports from them. Small miners were down for the most part, except for BitDigital was down. BitDigital came down to the low of the previous 52-week high, it seems like, at $1.75. And then CAN was down 7.16%. That also came down to the previous low also. So maybe we are bottoming out on some of these guys here. The ETFs were down as well. 3%, 4%, 3%. Seems like those guys are also bottoming out here maybe a little bit. They bounced off of these kind of bottoms here, it looks like. So that might be a good sign there. DAP, same thing. I mean, we're seeing the same kind of action here. They wicked way down and it came back up. BKCH, same thing. BitQ, same thing. So maybe we are starting to kind of bottom out here a little bit on those guys and even potentially on some of the miners here. We won't know until we actually are in it in next week sometime, but we'll see what happens there. Okay. So there's that part of the stuff I wanted to cover with you guys. Really quick here, Bitcoin right now in April is up 1.25%, which is better than what we expected, better than what I expected, truly. I thought Bitcoin was going to go down to like I said yesterday, 79, 78,000, something like that, maybe even lower before we had a huge wick down and then come back up. But Bitcoin is holding pretty good here. The ETFs here for the last, today we're down 64 million right now. We're still waiting on BlackRock to report. We'll see what that one comes in at. But even the ETFs have been selling in the last 2 days, but Bitcoin is going up. So what is causing it? Is it just investments from retail going into it? Possibly. That could be it, driving it up higher. People are fleeing from basically all the stuff that has tariffs associated with it to something that does not. And Bitcoin definitely does that. Okay, so something to keep in mind there. So we talked about that. All right, then we got some news on the miners here. let's get into this. This was interesting also. This is from Matthew Seigel again, Recovering CFA. This was pretty interesting what he posted here. Brutal, right? Bitcoin miners stock-based compensation per Bitcoin mined in 3-month period ending December 2024 per Cantor Fitzgerald report here. And here's what we got. So this looks at the stock-based compensation per BTC mined. How much did they give out in stock-based compensation? And you got Riot, Mara, Cleanspark, Bitdeer, Wolf, and Iren, CORZ, Cypher, Hive, Hut 8, Bitfarms, right? So this is all of Q3 here. You can see how that stacks up. Riot actually came in pretty low for Q3. Q4, I usually expect Q4 to be numbers to be outlandish because they put everything into the numbers at that point, including the kitchen sink. So that's kind of what we're seeing here right now with it. But when we look at some of the other companies here, Cleanspark was actually pretty low. They were pretty low also in Q3, but they were very low over here, 1.6 thousand per BTC mined. That's actually pretty good there. The other next lowest was actually Iren, right? The two guys that I'm mostly invested in. So that kind of holds up with my theory of going with the most efficient miners and things like that may actually bode well going forward. Time will tell. Right now, it hasn't played out that way. I'll be honest with you guys. But hopefully in the next, I would say 6 to 9 months, whatever it is, by the time Bitcoin maybe gets to a new all-time high again, 150,000, 200,000, whatever it might be, these guys might actually get rewarded for that. We'll see. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm saying it's a possibility. Biggest one was Wolf here. 39,000 was $40,000 per BTC mine given out in stock-based compensation. That is just insane. That's crazy. Yes, they did get a contract there for HPC ideal. Okay, they're celebrating that. End of the year. Okay, fine, whatever it is. But that's still to me just outlandish, I guess you could say. Okay, but that's how everybody stacks up here. Wanted to show that to you guys, and then also per Matthew Siegel again, accounting for stock-based comp, energy cap, cash ops, net interest, and DNA. Only Iren and Cleanspark make money here, and here's how that turns out. This is also from Cantor Fitzgerald here, the way that they're calculating it. It looks like Cleanspark is coming in at about 88,000, everything in, and Iren at about 78,000. So there is a difference, and that's kind of the same difference that I'm seeing between the two as well on my figures when it comes to just all-in cash costs for these guys. So that's for Q4, so that looks pretty good there for them. We'll have to wait and see what the numbers come in for Q1. If they can keep their costs down, growing is also going to be a big thing. So you need companies that really do well as far as scale is. Once you scale, you need to scale some more to keep the cost for SG&A, everything else down under control. And if you can do that, you can obviously have pretty nice low numbers there. So that bodes well. Again, two of the ones that I'm mostly invested in here. I do have obviously some Bitfarms shares and a little bit of Mara shares as well. But those two are my high conviction plays here. And maybe those play out or not. I'll find out in the next basically half a year to a year. We'll find out how that plays out. All right. But just wanted to point that out to you guys also. So definitely, like I said before, give Matthew a follow if you don't follow him. A lot of great information in there he puts out on it. And I love reading what he has to say. Definitely a very, very smart man there, by all accounts. Okay. Next here, let's get into the miners here really quick. We got Cleanspark and Iren on the tab here to talk about those, and we'll get into you guys' Q&A as well. So Cleanspark had actually a really good month here based on the number of Bitcoins they mined and the days they mined and everything else. We'll take a look at that here in a second. But here's what we have for them. Cleanspark releases their March 2025 Bitcoin mining update. This is a quote from Zach Bradford here. We've remained focused on executing our strategy and have built a strong foundation for scalable growth, including the addition of nearly 2 exahash in Wyoming in March, said Zach Bradford, CEO and president of Cleanspark. In March alone, we increased Bitcoin production by 13%, generating 706 Bitcoin. With nearly a gigawatt of energy under contract and a robust growth pipeline, our future is bright. Holding nearly 12,000 Bitcoin in treasury, Cleanspark is well positioned for the road ahead. And I agree. I think they are. We also saw yesterday that BlackRock increased the number of shares that they own in Cleanspark to 15.5% of the company there. That's crazy. So big guys are buying. Well, the stock has been going down here, which is nice to see. And then also, while the recently announced tariffs may temporarily raise industry-wide growth costs, Cleanspark is well prepared. The majority of our miners and infrastructure required to meet near-term goals are already stateside, so that's good. There might be some, obviously, impact on whatever's left to be delivered here, depending when those were out and when they're getting into the ports, but it's going to be minimal, I would think. So barely to minimal impact on that. We believe our advantages, including our lower cost of capital, superior purchasing power, and best-in-class operations, set us apart. These tariffs may slow down competitors who lack our scale and resilience, but we're confident in our ability to maintain our momentum and lead the industry forward. Now, one of the parts of the tariffs from Trump was that semiconductors are not included in the tariffs. I'm not sure if this is going to categorize as a semiconductor, right, the ASICs, but if it does, then that would be a good thing. That means the miners would not be impacted by the tariffs at all. I don't know if that's going to be the case, though. Okay. Update here for them. Bitcoin mined in March was 706. Total Bitcoin holdings was now 11,869. Month-end operating hash rate was 42.4, so a very nice increase there. And then total Bitcoin sold, they only sold 14.23. So that's all looking good there. Like I said, we'll take a look at their joules per terahash. Can't speak. Speaking too fast. Joules per terahash efficiency went down to 17.03, which is good. And then we do have some updates for additional updates for Mississippi and Georgia. Cleanspark is actively expanding several existing facilities across Mississippi and Georgia, further strengthening its presence in the company's most established markets. These initiatives include additional immersion deployments and designed to deliver the same industry-leading performance seen across the portfolio. Upon completion, these projects are expected to contribute approximately 2 exahash. So that's another 2, so that gets us to about, about 44 or so. Wyoming, construction and commissioning continue to for the next phase of Cleanspark Regional Expansion Project in Wyoming, additional compute power of 2.5. So then that gets us to about 47, I believe, is expected to come online within current quarter, further advancing company's hash rate, right? And then Tennessee, 2 projects are underway. Tennessee powered by a combined 60 megawatts. These initiatives are expected to add in a nearly 4 exahash, so that gets us to like 51 exahash to the company's total processing power, representing a nearly 10% increase in current production. Both sides will participate in Tennessee Valley Authority. So there's still a lot of growth happening here. A lot of it's going to be happening here in the next, I would say, 3 months, which is nice, right? So they should be able to get to 50 exahash plus by the end of the first half of the year, which is fantastic, which is awesome. Love seeing that. All right, so let's take a look at here, Cleanspark here really quick. Cleanspark right now is about 280 million shares, market cap 2 billion. It's holding up actually not that bad. All things considering how the other miners have been performing, it's actually doing pretty good here. Performance of the last 12 weeks, not great, right? It's down 28% from 12 weeks ago. Current hash rate 42.4 exahash, future hash rate about 56 based on what I have for their purchases. They could change stuff out. That is some of the older machines as well. We'll find out in due time when that happens. BTC HODL 11,869. That's valued at 994,000. Million. Sorry, 994 million right now. Bitcoin goes up in value. Obviously, that's going to be valued much higher. HODL to market cap is about 48.36%. Each share has $3.54 of HODL in it right now. Bitcoin mined here. This is the best that they've had here after the halving event, which we saw in April, right? We had the halving event April 20th, April 19th, somewhere around there. And this is the best number that they have, 706 Bitcoin. Very, very nice to see that. Happy to see that as well. Monthly revenue went up a little bit here to 60 million. Obviously, that's one, they mined more, but 2, Bitcoin prices came down, but they actually mined their revenue was a little bit higher, just slightly, about $500,000 higher than where it was in February here, okay, for March. Bitcoin HODL, continuation of a nice ascending or increasing numbers of months going forward. It's, one of the things that I talked about probably about a year and a half ago, I said there might be a possibility for Cleanspark to actually bypass HUT 8 with their HODL position. And sure enough, that actually played out. And I kind of gave out the same scenario of how this could play out, and it's actually played out better than I thought it was going to play out. The hash rate here, 42.4, talked about that. Continuation of, look at this. Last March, they were at 16 exahash. Now they're at 42. Fantastic growth there. BTC sold just a little bit, 14. BTC per exahash efficiency, right? How efficient are they? I like this, seeing the increase here, and that's to 16.7 for the month. That's really good. That means that they were up more the month than the prior month, which is good. Obviously, last month was also a shorter month, but they were still down a little bit more in comparison to that. Bitcoin sold, they only sold about 1.2 million of that. Going down here to institutions. Institutions did decrease a little bit here to 413 million over the last month. Shares actually went up to 158.7 million, and then percentage owned went up to 57.53. We still have 4 strong buy ratings, 4 buy ratings, 1 hold, 1 0 underperforms, 0 sells. Price targets came down actually a little bit here, not much. $3 for the high, down to 27. The average went down to 19.25, and the low went down to 12 here. We're seeing this across the board for all these miners for the most part, as the price targets are coming down from the analysts on these guys. Yeah, I think that's mainly because Bitcoin price has been coming down. That's the only thing I can see on it. Going down here, had approximately 16 million here in revenue. Talked about that already a little bit. And then we had the mining here for the month of March, approximately 30 days here, with the new machines being added in for running about 20 days on average. I'm giving them 20 days on this one. So that all worked out pretty well, and really good operations here, really, really good. I think so far the best operations that I've seen here currently. That gets us up to here. So based on the last month's March revenue numbers times 12, right? I'm giving a P of 16 here. I'm in between $20 and $30. If you increase the PE, you can probably get them up even higher than that. But I'm right now with the market the way it is, I'm like, let's go to 16 or 15 even. Between 20 and 28, they're at 732. Are they undervalued? Yeah, they're way undervalued as it is. Will that eventually, I think that might change. But right now, yeah, they're undervalued. So good time to be buying in if you're looking to buy into something. And also we'll take a look at the MNAV here in a second for these guys. And then that will change your kind of view on it as well, how possibly they are undervalued a little bit. All right. So that's Cleanspark overall. I mean, they just got to continue to execute it the way they have. Fantastic job. I've been in them for, gosh, now a long time. And I've liked what I've seen with them, the operations, the growth, what they're doing, everything else. That's why I've been with them. But none of the miners have done really well here in the last year after the halving event, unfortunately, or even pre-halving event. So we are where we are right now, and eventually I'm hoping that things will turn around for us. I still have pretty high hopes for these guys and others as well. All right, let's get into Iren here really quick as well. Iren, okay, Iren, oh my gosh. Iren, if they could actually provide an actual update in like a website format. They keep providing these PDF formats. I love Iren. I love everything they're doing. I hate this. This is tough. It's tough to highlight. It's tough to provide it to you guys. So if they could fix this, this would be wonderful. I don't know if they're gonna fix it, but man, they're getting a little lazy here on this stuff, which is okay, but it's just a pain in the butt for me, nonetheless. But here's what we got. So currently they have 660 megawatts in data centers, 37 exahash installed. They installed quite a bit of hash rate here this month, which is nice as well. They have 1,896 NVIDIA H100s and H200 GPUs currently generating some revenue for them, about 24 million in run rate for the year. Now they actually, A6 and GPU hardware part, okay. Electricity cost, revenue, 47 million roughly. Operating data centers capacity, 660 megawatts. We talked about that. Bitcoin mining, right, up from 31. So 6 exahash basically being installed here in the month of March. I mean, fantastic job there. On track for 50 exahash in the first half of the year. They're pausing their mining expansion at 52 exahash, so they're getting close to that. New 600 megawatt grid connection agreement signed. 2.75 gigawatts now secured for data centers in West Texas. Progressing net financing as normal. So they did mine 533 Bitcoin here. Nice improvement over February, 459. Revenue per Bitcoin was about 85,000. Electricity cost was about 20,000. So that's actually down from 28,000. So that's good in February. And then revenue was 45.3 million. Electrical cost was 10.9 million of that. So that's looking good there. And revenue for AI cloud services, 1.6 million, right, up from 1.2. So that has been increasing. That's nice to see there. And then hardware profit for that is 97%. Profit margin, so that's really good there, and I went up too far. There it is. That's why I hate this. Let me see if I can zoom this out maybe a little bit so we can get it all in here. But then you guys have a hard time seeing it, though. You guys can also take a look at this, obviously, on the website. But this kind of just goes into the Bitcoin mining AI services and AI data centers, what their plans are, their sites that they have, Childress, Sweetwater, Sweetwater 2, all that stuff. I don't think there's anything else in there. They talk about site overview, Mackenzie, Prince George, Canal Flats, Childress. Right, you guys can definitely take a look at that stuff there. We're going to take a look at their operations here, which have been also really good here this month. So Iren has 218 million shares outstanding, stock price 594, market cap 1.3 billion. They don't hodl anything. Current hash rate 37 exahash, future hash rate 52 exahash. I do have that in there now. I corrected that for them. I took out some of the older machines I believe that they're going to be getting rid of. We'll take a look at that down below here. But 533 Bitcoin is the best that they have mined here for the month. Their prior best was back in December with 529. So that's awesome to see. I'm expecting to see more Bitcoin being mined here in the month of April, with them being at 37 exahash here. And then revenue increased a little bit here to 45.3. Approximately, what did that increase? 1.5 million, roughly, somewhere 1.6 million in revenue. So that was a nice increase there as well. Hash rate growth, right? About 5 exahash being installed here to 37 exahash. BTC sold, they sell everything they mine. BTC per exahash efficiency is actually up a little bit here to 14.4. And then Bitcoin sold value was 45 million on that. Going down here, let's take a look at the institutions and analyst ratings. That increased a little bit here as well to 156 now. Shares increased to 104, but the percentage owned by institutions decreased, 52.28. That's a result of dilution. So anytime I see that, it's kind of like, okay, they're diluting there. We know that they're diluting. ATM is at work right now, which they even stated that they've used up $100 and some odd million of the ATM already. We have 8 strong buy ratings, 3 buy ratings now instead of the 2, 1 hold rating. So we had 1 basically switch over to buy rating there. 0 underperforms, 0 sells. Price target stayed the same for them, $26. Average went down a little bit here to $20.77. The low came down to $12 on that one. Going down here, okay, so here are all the machines I think they're going to be swapping out eventually, or they're maybe even in the process of doing that right now as they get these newer machines installed here. And these over here are all the pretty much 100 terahash machines, which are now pretty old, about 3 years old, I imagine, I think. So it makes sense to get rid of those. Those are less efficient. Time to sell them on the open market, get rid of them. So I already took out some of these over here on that and added some more of these newer machines down here, which got us down to some of these newer ones. I don't know exactly when they were running, but I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt that they were only running for about 10 days here. It's kind of hard to tell when they actually got installed here, because if I include those at 20 days and then the rest of the stuff at, I would have to go down to like, I think 20 days of the rest of the stuff or something like that when I ran the numbers. So I'm giving the benefit of the doubt that they were only operating for about 10 days once they got plugged in and energized. And the rest of the time they were running about 29 days, okay? But they got us to the 45.345 million, which coincides with what I have for them here based on the average price of Bitcoin for the month of March, okay? Now, based on the revenue here, we're still looking at approximately for the month of March times 12. With a P of 15, I brought them down as well a little bit, between $19 and $28, and that's kind of coincides with the analyst estimates as well. So they're at 594. I mean, it looks like they could probably do a 4 or 5x from here if things work out properly, right? So definitely way undervalued as well on this one. And yeah, I mean, what can you say? Love seeing the growth here. You do see this from time to time on them where they have, huge growth in a month, right? 5 exahash here, 7 exahash, 4 exahash. They were a little flat. They were building out the sites. And then 5 exahash, boom, off to the races, and they're generating a lot more. So they're also one of the best ones here that are operating right now, along with Cleanspark. I would say even Mara's getting better. Mara just got to get their costs down. Riot, same thing. There's others in there, in that group as well. But those are the 2 I think that are the best currently. Okay. All right. So there's that on it. And then yesterday I had a request from one of you guys, from the viewers, to take a look at the MNAV for the miners right now that have a HODL position here. So that is over here. So I'll try to explain this as best as I can. We're looking at all the miners that have a HODL position right now, which includes Bitdeer, Bitfarms, Cypher, Cleanspark, CORZ, Hive, Hut8, Marathon, and Riot. All of these guys had a HODL position at the end of Q4. We're using some of those numbers here below here, right? The total assets, total liabilities, net assets minus HODL, current assets with HODL right now, and then we're getting the MNAV on that. I use the formula over here. That's how you're kind of figuring it out. We'll kind of go over that in a second here, how that actually all works out. We're looking at the number of shares, right? Or just kind of for illustrative purposes, the share price right now, number of shares, market cap, what their HODL Bitcoin is right now, number-wise of Bitcoins, what their HODL value is currently. We're also looking at the market cap to HODL on these guys here. And then, like I said, we're looking at the total assets from Q4 results, BTC assets, what was that at Q4, total liabilities as well back then. Net assets is what we're doing, is we're taking total assets, total liabilities, subtracting the 2 and getting the net assets. And then we're taking the net assets minus the HODL position they had in Q4. And then going over here to current assets with HODL over here. So we're taking the net assets minus the HODL over here in Q4, and we're adding the HODL back in of what it is right now to get this number. And then we're taking that number and get the MNAV of it, which is the current assets with current HODL divided by the market cap. And that's kind of where we're getting the MNAV on that, okay? So everybody's on the same playing field here. We can see that Bitfarms now is market to HODL 15.26 times, basically. Their HODL position is what their market cap is. And then if you look at their MNAV, which is obviously market to net asset value, it's 4.64, pretty high. It's even higher than I believe it would be for MicroStrategy. I think MicroStrategy is like at 2 point something right now. On it. Bitfarms, way under, 0.73 here MNAV, right? If you look at the HODL to the market cap, it's 4.46, but the number based on the Q4 results. Right, we'll have to wait for the Q1 results coming out for their assets, liabilities, all that stuff that might change. And then Cypher is at 1.12 MNAV, Cleanspark 0.99. Core is actually a negative because they have a lot of debt here. Hive is at 0.55. So Hive looks like the most undervalued here based on their current assets with HODL. Current HODL is 392 million, but their current market cap is 217 million. Doesn't really make much sense, does it? It's way, way, way undervalued. On that one, HUT 8 is at 1.08. And then Marathon is at 0.99, similar to what Cleanspark looks like it's at. And then Riot is at 0.81, so it looks like Riot might be actually a little bit more undervalued than Marathon even is, along with Cleanspark, but somewhere in the middle there on it. So just want to point that out to you guys here, how that all stacks up right now. But if you look at the market cap to HODL position, you can see that Mara is probably the lowest one, 0.98 here. Their HODL position is worth more than their market cap is right now, which is just insane. So they're not being valued for their operations. Yes, they have a lot of debt. Right? Total liabilities is 2.6 billion, but that's not due until 5 years down the road, whatever it is. So that should be taken into consideration as well, that their operations are pretty good. Okay, yes, they do have a little higher cost for operations and things like that, but still, I think they should be valued much higher from where they are right now, just for the HODL that they have and the operations being at 50 some exahash right now is huge for them. And them also doing other things, right? They're getting the, the wind farm, the electricity, wind generation, right? They're doing that, putting in older machines there, which could get them close to zero cost of electricity. They're looking to do flare gas as well. That could get them much lower cost of things. So there's a lot of things that they're doing that are going to be very, very beneficial, I believe, not only to the company, but also to the shareholders there. But yeah, this is how it all stacks up here. The interesting part on this is, if you don't understand MNAV here, there's an example here. A company has a market capitalization of 120 billion. Its NAV total assets of 150 million minus liabilities of 50 million equals 100 million. MNAV equals 120 million divided by 100 million equals 1.2 or 120%. Interpretation, MNAV greater than 1, e.g. 1.2. The market values the asset company higher than its net assets, suggesting growth expectations or intangible value, e.g. brand future earnings. And then MNAV, if it's less than 1, e.g. 0.8, the market values it below its net assets, possibly indicating undervaluation or distress, which we know none of these guys are distressed because Bitcoin's actually holding up pretty well here. And then MNAV of 1, the market value equals the net asset value, right? So that's kind of the way it works out there, okay? So this is going to be going forward to you guys that are Patreon members. You guys will get this, and we'll keep this updated as well going forward with it. Each month, we'll probably take a look at it to see where it's at. And I should include here also MicroStrategy in here just for comparison to where everybody else is compared to MicroStrategy. Okay? All right, that was a lot. We are going on 40 minutes. All right, get that done a little bit faster than I thought I did. All right, but as always, like I said, this spreadsheet, everything else, Patreon members get access to that. If you want to get access to that, link is down in the description for that. That's my little sales pitch here. Let's get into Q&A and call it a day because it's Friday night and we need a drink because it was a rough week. So salute to all you guys that have weathered the storm. Maybe weathered the storm. All right. If you guys could preface the question with a question mark and a Q, I'm going to work my way up and I'm going to work my way down as always. So let's go through it here. We'll see what you have as far as comments and questions. I see a bunch of comments. All right. Let's see. All right. Carl says, all the market meltdown hurts, but these periods are when you make generational wealth, just like 2008. Yep, I agree 100%, right? If you can buy into these dips right now, you will do so much better in the long run. It's going to take maybe a little while, but you're going to do very, very well in the long run. Definitely the time to buy. Let's see. Freddie says, I'm deep in Iren. I need as much info as possible. Thanks. I hope you got enough info on Iren, right? There's a lot of things happening for them, a lot of good things. It's just that they got to execute with the HPCI thing. That's the main thing for them. And then continue to grow on their Bitcoin. Hopefully they can do that going forward as well. So I'm a big fan of them. I have a lot of shares in them as well. Chris says Cleanspark is king. Bow down to Cleanspark. Carl, FYI, I am retired. I will tell you younger people buy, steal, and beg to get cash to buy once bottom of the market confirms in the next few months. Yeah, I agree. I've seen this before. Didn't have the cash to do it at that time. I was much younger, had a family, trying to better myself and everything else. But there were more important things: diapers, everything else. Couldn't buy at that time. This time around, Uncle Sam needs his money, so I got to pay. But hopefully, I'm not saying hopefully. I don't want the market to bottom out when I have the cash. If it bottoms out before I do that, that's fine. I'll just buy into it at that point. I want you guys to be able to buy into it as much as you can. So I'm not going to say I want it to be when it's beneficial to me only. All right. Now, Manu says BTC have decoupled, but miners are still going down with stocks. Yes, they are. I think eventually that's going to flip though, because once Bitcoin starts going back up, the miners will follow its suit as well. Bitcoin's only up, less than 1% the last 2 days, or it's up probably about a 1.5%, 2% up compared to the markets. That's actually really good, but the miners are still following that. But I think it's going to change here. We'll see. Chris says Mara green, so miners decoupled. That was it. It was CORZ was also up in a little bit. Sadie, thank you so much for the thumbs up there. Manu asked Chris, what is your real name? I think wasn't it Chris used to use Christopher, I believe. Let's see. No Carlson line. You're talking about CTO Carlson. Is that who you're talking about there? What does he charge? I think he charges is it like $2,000 a year for that? Yeah, I don't have the money to do that. Let's see if there's anything else. Let's see, if you're going to blame Trump when the market's tanks, you also have to give him credit when the skyrockets. Absolutely, right? If things turn around, he gets both. He gets the blame on when things are going down, and he'll get the praise when things are going up. But that's part of the deal, right? Out of the deal, he's trying to, we'll see if it happens. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm saying there's a possibility that he's going to work out a deal with all these countries possibly going forward here to make it more even, I guess you could say, between everybody. All right. Kitewind says Galaxy 15,449 BTC equals 94.8% of the market value. Riot 18,062. Cleanspark 1148. Mara for 102%. The market value. You're talking about their market cap there, based on their market cap. Yeah, market value. Riot 62.9. Oh, of that. Let me see. Do I have that right? 62.9. I'm using the multiples here. You're using percentage-wise. If you look at the percentage-wise on these guys, that would be different. Mara is at 102%. I probably should pull this up. Mara is 102% here. Here's the HODL, the market cap value. Riot is 64%. Yes. Yeah, you're right. So we are on the same page there. Let's go back here. All right, let's see here. Hive 130 all-time low, lower than 2022 low bear market. Didn't they do a reverse split though? I can't remember when they did a reverse split. I think that may be the reason why you're seeing that. Maybe. I think they were down again in like the low single or down in the pennies. Not quite pennies, but below $1. See, Carl says, I'm about to retire, not worried. You younger people, I advise to borrow, steal, beg. Yeah, talked about that already. Definitely. All right. I said, which miners are most affected by the tariffs? Thanks. I don't think any of these miners will be hugely affected by it, as long as they have most of their ASICs already in the United States, or they might have a small percentage still coming in. So anybody that's getting miners in, right, will get affected by it. We saw Cleanspark already report that they have majority of their stuff in here. There might be some, so there might be some effect on that. Also, if the semiconductor chips are not being tariffed, does that also go over into the ASICs themselves? I don't know that. But if it does, that'd be great. So that way no miners would be affected by it. But if it does affect the miners, you got Iren that's still obviously installing quite a bit load there. You got Hut 8 getting a bunch of machines from Bitmain as well, right? They made a deal with where Bitmain's going to be hosting with them 15 exahash, and then they have the option to buy. But if they have the option to buy, I'm guessing by the time that they come in, those probably will be higher priced. I'm guessing if the tariffs are impacted by there. Hive operates in Canada, Paraguay, Iceland, or something like that. They are not going to be affected by it. Bitfarms, I think, is pretty much close to being everything installed already as it is. They might have a little bit there, so that's not much. Who else? Cypher. BitDeers might get affected, depending where their stuff is made in. But they're making their own machines. I don't know how that's going to work out since they're own machines. What else? who else is in there? I feel like I'm drawing a blank on somebody. Riot should be okay. I think Riot has all the stuff there already as it is. Yeah, those are the ones I can only think of right now. All right. Kitewind says, these days many will make fortunes. Even when understanding this, I'm still too greedy to go all in, just as I was too stupid to let go when stocks started to fall. Yeah, I mean, we should have kind of seen the tea leaves in the air a long time ago when Trump was talking about tariffs and things like that. Maybe we should have gotten out at that point, myself included. Right, another lesson learned. Yeah, chicken out because I expect lower bottom. Yeah, there might be. I'm not saying that there won't be, but there's definitely a possibility of that happening still. TRB says, Lily Phillips accuses Donald Trump of stealing her idea to F 340 million Americans in one day. Who is Lily Phillips? I heard that name today also. I got to look at that up. All right. Whom of these mining companies invest in developing their own ASIC chips? Mara, Bitdeer. Those are the ones right now. And then Bitmain, obviously. The one who produces tomorrow's chips should be able to dominate. So that would be Mara. Mara's in with, gosh, what's the name there? Auradine, right? They're investing heavily into Auradine, at least have in the past. So they're creating their miners for them. And then Bitdeer, obviously, right? And then you got Bitmain. And that's, you got Canon there as well, depending where those chips are made and everything else. Another thing that I heard interesting was that China now possibly has the possibility to create 3 nanometer chips by the end of this year and full production sometime next year. That's huge there also. So China's not giving a rat's butt about any of this stuff that's happening here in the United States and us wanting to control the chips and everything else. They're just progressing forward and doing their own thing and getting the nanometer size down to where we thought it might take them, another 5 years to get down to there, but it seems like they might be there already this year. So that's something also to think about there. Okay, let's see, Cleanspark going from 16 to 42x a year is pretty impressive. I guess I'm going to let them have the jet. Yeah, I mean, it's really, really huge growth there, right? Plus having multiple locations. How much time do you spend in the airports, right? And if you're running a company, do you really want to be spending time in the airports? Plus, if it's beneficial to them and they can actually write it off or make it somewhat a positive for them, I mean, that makes sense then if that's what the case is. All right, what is the size of your position in Cleanspark and Iren? It is combined over 6 figures with those guys. They're about even, about 50-some thousand a piece is my position in both of these guys. All right, why is Mara's BTC mine per exahash less than the other miners that have reported so far? All right, let's take a look at it here. Let's take a look at Mara here. But Mara, let me see, we have them at 14.89, so that's actually pretty good. Cleanspark came in at 16.7, and the reason Mara was operational for that amount of time was the number of days, I believe. I had them at 26.55 days here based on what they report as revenue, Bitcoin mined, and all that stuff. I added some more miners into them as well for about 20 days. That's kind of what I usually do, is about 20 days for these guys. So that's because we don't know. We don't know when they actually got installed, so I'm giving them kind of on average about 20 days on it to make it a little bit fair. But they've been doing a lot better here, right? It's 26 days. They were 22 days in February here. They were 24. They're kind of up and down, and I think it's because some of the sites that they deal with that are still not owned by them but are hosted by them are curtailing. So that's kind of where I think this is coming from right now on that. Okay, covered that one. Let's see. All right. Were you ever able to find the MNAV values for Bitfarms, Mara, and Hive? Yeah, I talked about it here. Let me see. I believe Mara was one of the lows. Thinks some miners are valued less than their HODL, not valuing anything else. Yeah, did cover that. I'm guessing you must have missed it while I was covering it, but here it is for you, my friend. Miners market to net asset value. Here, there it is. Got it all plugged in here as of the latest numbers that we have from Q4, and then extrapolating it over to where the value of the the HODL is right now. So if you want to take a screenshot of this, you can definitely take a look at that. Mara is definitely undervalued, right at 0.99, but Bitfarms is even more. Even so is Hive, 0.55 MNAV on that one. Okay, so you can see how that works out. But you can see it over here. Net assets minus HODL, so their assets as of Q4 minus their current BTC assets. Where is it at? Did I do this right? Yeah, I did this right. Net assets minus HODL their huddle, what it was valued at that point was negative, but even now, so more so. Okay. So there's that. Definitely did that for you. Told you I would. I try to stick to my word. If I'm going to tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. All right. G. Hey, I heard Trump was finally convinced to sell him and his buddies out today, releasing the Epstein files. April Fools. Trump classified it for a reason. Ain't no way that's getting declassified. That's right. I mean, where is that? That stuff's supposed to, well, what was, oh, the one that they let out was the JFK files, but they didn't, yeah. Did he really classify those today? I did not see that. All right, is MNAV different from price to book? Oh gosh, you're asking the wrong person on the technicalities of that stuff. MNAV, I think, is a little bit different. Book to price ratio, I do have that. Where do I have that for some of these guys? Under the, let's see here. Book to price, what does that look at? I do have it here. Book to price, PB, market, so it's market cap to BBE. That is book value of equity at, I probably should look this up. I'm looking at it on Cleanspark right now in here because I do have it in here. Price to book ratio, PB, market cap divided by BBE. So there's book value, which takes into account total assets, no, total liabilities, but then we're also, it's a little slightly different than I guess. So we're taking the total assets minus total liabilities, and then we're also including the current HODL value and taking out the old HODL value to get the new value, basically. Hope that makes sense for you. Yeah, there's a lot of different ways you can skin a cat, I guess. All right, Kevin says, oops, I just saw you were talking about it. Thanks so much for sharing it. You rock. You're very welcome. All right, why aren't you selling everything to buy more right now if below HODL value? Like I said, the operations have gotten much better here recently. In the past, that wasn't the case. That's why I never got into MAR because of that. There was always issues with their operations, whether it was they were down for some reason, they had one reason or another, whatever it was, just wasn't great. They were also very asset light. I didn't like the fact that they were asset light. They were paying a higher cost to mine also in the past. They've been changing that around in the last, I would say, year and a half or so. So that's why I started to kind of see that they're improving, which was nice. I'm like, okay, they're improving. Things are getting better. I can put in a little bit in here, see where they go. And that's kind of the reason why. All right, question from MNAV. It appears the market is very negative on BTC and is giving some premium for AI infrastructure cores versus high hash and HODL miners. Maybe, maybe not necessarily, I would say. It's definitely wonky, I would say, on that one. All right, Chris, only miner on the weekly, which is green. Are they all the ones that are green in the week? Let's take a look at that. Let's see, where do I go? Weekly. All right, let's take a look. Are they the only ones in the green? I did not see that. All right, let's see here. Bitfarms is down on the weekly. Bitdeer is down. Cypher is down. Cleanspark, you're right. It's the only one that's actually in the green here. CORZ, at least right now. Hive is down. Hive 8 is down. Iren is down. Mara is actually down on the week. Riot. Yeah, wow. Cleanspark is the only one that's in the green, actually. It is on the week. Let's see if we can pull that up. It is up 1.81% on the week. Oh my gosh. Okay, last week was Mara. That was the only one that was up. Now it's Cleanspark. Interesting times that we are living in, my friends. All right. Let's see. Hey, Seb, if you had an 8K and only can pick one, who would you pick, Clean or Iren? Again, that's not an easy question because I do love both of these companies and they both offer something different, right? Cleanspark offers HODL, Iren offers AI potential. So it's not an easy, I would go probably 50-50 on both of these guys and see where the bet goes. But that's kind of the way I would go on it. All right. Let's see. Question versus the market miners did quite well. Is this because they really can't go much lower, or is BTC really getting some recognition as this SOFV and miners getting benefit? I might be, yeah, I think it is getting like a safe haven or something like that for Bitcoin, right? What do you call it? Safety value or store value, SOV, store value. So yeah, it is getting right now, at least it's only been 2 days. We need to see what happens next week. If the markets continue to crash next week and Bitcoin is actually still holding its own, at least not falling as much, or at least going up in a little bit, then yeah, we could possibly say that that's the case. The miners are being down because, well, that's fears of tariffs on them having to pay more for ASICs, equipment, anything else that they need, right? So that's the fear kind of there, I think, why that's bringing them down. But they're still not going down quite as much as some of the other stocks that we've seen here. All right. All right, Mara, better deal than any other miners in the market right now. It's definitely a really good deal right now. I think maybe Hive is maybe even more undervalued right now based on the MNAV. Bitfarms as well, but Mara with their operations and the size that they have, everything else, the HODL position, yeah, definitely undervalued from where they should be. Let's see. All right, catching up with your guys' questions here. Which miners are profitable? So we talked about that. It looks like maybe Cleanspark and Iren might be the only ones that are profitable for Q1. More so Iren. Cleanspark is questionable right now, at least, depending on how much they put into their costs. SG&A, anything else, stock-based compensation, depreciation, how does that come in, and all that stuff. So we'll see how that comes in. But Cleanspark is going to get negatively affected because of the FSB rules and the Bitcoin HODL that they have right now. So that's going to probably bring down their EPS. Take out the FASB for Bitcoin, they might sneak out a positive EPS. We'll find out in five weeks when they report it. All right, let's see. Guy has a question. Target price for Cleanspark till September 2025, please, and January 2026. Depends where Bitcoin goes. It's hard to tell right now with the way the market is. Bitcoin starts flying, I would say count on if Bitcoin goes 2x, I would count on Cleanspark doing at least a 2x at the very minimum, right? Sandbagging it quite a bit here. Hopefully not to get your guys' hopes up, not to get my own hopes up, but I would say at least 2x is what I would think. All right, DeFi, which is your top two miners for me? It's Cleanspark and Iren. All right, and then if you want to buy BTC, why not buy just Mara? Mara is the next MicroStrategy with mining. True, but you're seeing the valuation of Mara and the valuation of MicroStrategy, right? I don't know if because of their operations and the higher cost to mine for Mara, if that's the reason why it's being not appreciated as much as MicroStrategy or strategy is on that one. But if I was just going to buy Bitcoin, I'd just buy Bitcoin instead of MicroStrategy or something like that. I would just stick with that. And I do have one Bitcoin right now that I haven't sold in years. Don't plan on selling that. That's going to be my retirement account, along with my actual retirement account. But right now, my retirement account is suffering because of everything going down. It is what it is. All right. Let's see. All right. Kaiwin just became a member. Kaiwin, thank you so much for becoming a member. I greatly appreciate you, buddy. But yeah, cut up to all you guys' questions. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Like I said, we will get into, Hut 8 and Cypher reporting their update as well for March. We'll do that on Sunday. We'll look at how the miners did. Well, we now know that Cleanspark was the only one that was in the green. Everything else is out the door. And then we'll see where everything else comes in after that point. I'll see. Maybe on Sunday I may have something ready for you guys for HPCI plays going forward as well. I'm going to be doing some more research on that tomorrow and on Sunday. And then we'll maybe have something to talk about on Sunday. Okay? But trying to get there as fast as I can with all this stuff. Other than that, thank you so much for coming in. Love you all. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Have an adult beverage. Take it easy, relax, watch a good movie or something like that. Spend time with your family and kids. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then,